Hello everyone. In this Atomic Talk, I'll talk about a test strategy that actually works. Whenever you join a new organization, often you must have been asked to develop a test strategy. And right off the bat, you know that this is something they'll never use and you just get frustrated by it, right? Because most of the time it's just ignored. You'll develop something, it will be sitting on the shelf for a while, and eventually it will go away, and life will go on with or without the test strategy, and no one would bother follow it. And while there are a couple of reasons, one of them is some of these test strategies that we've traditional ones aren't practical enough, and that's why over training teams for a while, I figured we need to have a test strategy that moves them into a DevOps culture and that actually works. So that teams, when follow it, they can move into a DevOps ways of working. And it's a test strategy which is easy to use by everyone, and involves the whole team instead of just the person designing the test strategy. Typically, the way we design test strategies in the traditional world, between development, when they've done their work, they throw it over the wall to us, and then we do our testing bit and we throw it over the wall into production. And in the meanwhile, test strategies and we have a lot of work to do as testers, and I think we all agree on that. It's just to safeguard our responsibilities, we develop this test strategy which says these are my boundaries and I'm going to work within these boundaries, and outside these boundaries I don't want to be disturbed, and we are not taking responsibility, right? So it becomes a disclaimer. The test strategy becomes a disclaimer statement that if this is part of the test strategy, we are responsible, otherwise we are not. And it's more of a fine print. The way I see it, it's a fine print of a legal document, right? And terms like exit criteria, and some of these terms like time duration needed and out of scope and tests to be covered. I'm not saying these are bad things to have. These things shouldn't be there. But what I'm saying is these are used as tools sometimes to limit that scope and to make sure we are protected by all angles and we don't have to take the blame later on. And we say and the test strategy has a completely different idea of how things should work, and when actually things are done, it's completely different. We don't follow that necessarily. And of course, leadership unwillingly, they have to just accept whatever documentation we've done, and sometimes engineers don't find the time to go through all of that documentation because it's just so long. And then maintaining all of that is also a big challenge because teams often don't have enough bandwidth to go back and change these documents. And these documents, the ways of working will change. We test and learn. We try things. If they don't work, we try something else. So it's bound to change. So something which is easy to maintain is very important instead of something which is a nightmare to update. And so that's why I came up with the DevOps test strategy mind map, in which I've tried to create it in a very easy fashion for teams to give them a holistic picture of what the target world should look like and what are some key areas they should focus on. And over the years, while training different teams, I've incorporated different learnings from across a lot of different organizations, and how things should operate in the new DevOps world, where time to market and product quality are at best. So DevOps, it's about collective ownership, and I think that's one of the biggest things. When we develop these strategies, this should be something which everyone is supposed to be involved in. And quality is not just that testing phase, it is something that spreads across the entire SDLC. And often we struggle with figuring out, okay, how do we say it's across the SDLC? Well, you have quality activities in all of those, and trying to bring those out is very important, and I think sometimes engineers are not very well versed with exactly what they are supposed to do. And finally, doing automation the best way. I mean, automation is of course important, but doing it in haste and not in the right manner creates a lot of problems. And I've tried to explain all the test stages that should happen in a DevOps world, right? And across each test stage, what exactly automated tests and exploratory tests you should be doing as part of a general web application. So that gives a good understanding of what the target state for you should look like. Test strategy. Now, generally, people start off with test strategy. They just take a template for somewhere and just fill it. For me, it should start with the why of testing. You have some business goals, and that will give you your test goals. And you can call it a test policy. And that's test policy. When we explain how to do that at a very generic level, that is going to be your test strategy. And your test strategy is your target world, where you want to be. And your test plan is going to be something where you are today. And then you say, okay, from today in the next 2 months, these are certain things we want to focus on. So that would be part of your test plan, right? So, and that's how I distinguish between a test strategy and a test plan. But the main point, it starts with your business goals and objectives. And to be honest, the journey of transforming your quality practices is going to be unexpected. But the vision has to be very clear. The mistake people make is they don't have a clear vision, and because they know things are going to change all the time, so what's the point? But you need to have a very clear vision of where you have to go. But the journey is going to be unexpected. That's why you provision for things to change, and they should evolve. If you're not evolving, then you are definitely doing something wrong. Finally, mind map. I just love mind maps. I don't know, it's picked up momentum in the community for a while now. And I think instead of doing documents, mind maps are very easy, especially in this case, because it gives a holistic picture. Even to people who are not very technical, they get to understand what's being talked about. So in summary, in this talk, it's an atomic talk. I won't go through the whole thing, but just I'll describe some very high level sections of the DevOps test strategy mind map. So you have the quality vision section, which talks about KPIs and your quality vision. We talked about business goals and objectives, and some of the key practices that you need to follow, test stages that you would have. So that's more around a strategic vision part. Then you have ways of working, very important, and I think that's what drives change as to what practices we want to bring in. For instance, doing BDD, Three Amigo sessions, for example, automating at lower levels of the test stack. All of these going to be ways of working. Tools, not necessarily in terms of this specific tool, but tool more around for me is these type of tools should be considered. That's what I call, that's what I take for in tools here. Fourth one is the activities that need to happen across the SDLC. We said quality is not a specific stage. It happens across the development life cycle. So across each stage, what aspect of quality should be looked at, that's what's going to get covered in this section. If you need further information on this, head over to the URL over here, and I'd be happy to help you out with any further information you need. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the conference.